This week in Jamaica Now.
It must not happen.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says over the last 30 years, criminals have infiltrated the Jamaican police force.
We get paid Thursday, Friday before pay come.
Friday 5:30.
Every week.
Meeting on the inside with the general manager to sit now and go through the concerns that you have raised.
Jamaica's tourism industry rocked by more strikes. A father has been sent to prison for almost 12 years after confessing to sexually assaulting his daughter. And delinquent Jamaican student loan borrowers to face problems with U.S. immigration. I'm Jovan Johnson and this is Jamaica Now. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has acknowledged that criminals have operated out of the Jamaican police force. The admission from the head of government came Tuesday as Mr. Holness addressed the modernization and transformation of the Jamaica Constabulary Force to confront the country's endemic crime problem.
As we invest in degrading and eroding and eradicating the gangs, the JCF can't have any of its members involved in gangs. None of the JCF members can be in any way, shape, or form associated with offering support, giving information, taking money from, being friends with people who are in gangs. It must not happen. And it requires a change in culture. Because, unfortunately, over the last 30 or 40 years, there has been the infiltration of the police force by criminal organizations, many of them parading in ways to suggest that they are, regular business people. We are friends. I go drink at his bar. We go have a talk. It must change in the JCF.
Mr. Holness was speaking at the JCF's graduation ceremony for the second cohort of inspectors. And the police high command on Thursday ordered the detention of 2 policemen involved in the fatal shooting of 3 men on Windward Road in Kingston on November 10. The order was given following a request on Tuesday from the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, which is probing the matter. INDECOM said its request was prompted after uncovering what it calls significant evidence. The police officers reported that 2 firearms were allegedly recovered during the incident. INDECOM says no body-worn cameras were issued or worn by the police officers implicated in the case. The police report that the shooting incident involves 2 members from the Kingston Eastern Division. It says the policemen reported that while on patrol on Sunday morning, they encountered a group of men along Windward Road, and during the encounter, gunfire was exchanged, resulting in the death of the 3 men. One of the police officers sustained a non-life-threatening injury and 2 illegal firearms were reportedly recovered from the scene. The police high command says it is committed to accountability and supports a thorough and impartial investigation carried out by INDECOM. The 3 Jamaica Defence Force JDF soldiers who were on trial for the murder of businessman Keith Clarke in May 2010 have been freed of murder. Justice Dale Palmer ruled on Thursday that the men did not have a case to answer. Lance Corporals Greg Tingling and Odell Buckley, along with Private Arnold Henry, were charged following a ruling of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The judge's ruling followed the closure of the prosecution's case and submissions by the defense lawyers for the matter to be thrown out. The judge said based on the evidence, it is clear that the shooters intended to kill Mr. Clarke or to seriously wound him. However, he said the evidence presented to identify the shooters was woefully below the required standards. However, the judge said it was remarkable that 2 of the most senior JDF officials involved in the process were unable to identify the soldiers who shot Mr. Clarke. Brigadier Mahatma Williams, who commanded the unit involved in the incident, and retired legal officer Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Cole testified in the case. Mr. Clarke's family said they are disappointed, shocked and surprised. Meanwhile, one of the defense lawyers, Linton Gordon, said his clients are satisfied with the judge's decision.
Victory.
Well, yes, it's victory, but I think I should start off by saying that this is not a case in which we would be out celebrating victory per se. The attitude of the Jamaica Defence Force is that all operations should be conducted without fatalities. This is a very unfortunate one in which the soldiers were faced with an all but impossible situation in which at least 4 of them were shot and injured, and the group of soldiers who went to the premises, a weapon was pointed at them and they instinctively responded as they are trained to. And this is what led to the very unfortunate demise of Mr. Keith Clarke. And this is why we don't consider this a typical case for there to be celebration. Despite that, I must say that the men who stood their trial are very pleased, very happy, because they have gone through a tremendous amount of stress and difficulty and broken families because of the time this matter has taken to be brought to an end.
Can you explain what caused the breakdown of the prosecution's case? What were the weaknesses?
Well, the judge made a ruling confirming our submission that there was not any evidence properly identifying these 3 men as the men who are responsible for the unfortunate death of Mr. Clarke. And it is not difficult to understand that, because there were, on Mrs. Clarke's and her daughter's evidence, 6 to 8 men in uniform, not identified.
In a statement immediately after the ruling, the JDF said the verdict brings relief to the service members who they say can now reclaim their freedom, rebuild their lives and return to their families without the burden of litigation. Keith Clarke, who was a 64-year-old accountant at the time, was shot 25 times inside his master bedroom at his Kirkland Close St. Andrew home on May 27, 2010. The incident took place during a police military operation to apprehend then-fugitive drug lord Christopher Dudus Coke. A 36-year-old father who pleaded guilty to the sexual molestation of his teen daughter has been sentenced to almost 12 years in prison. Justice Yvonne Brown handed down the sentence in the St. Catharines Circuit Court on Tuesday. She described the man's actions as wicked. The offences took place in September 2021 when the child was 13 years old. The father had pleaded guilty to 2 counts of grievous sexual assault, 1 count of sexual touching and incest. He was sentenced to 11 years and 11 months for grievous sexual assault, 3 years and 2 months for sexual touching, and 3 years and 2 months for incest. The sentences are to run at the same time. Jamaica's tourism sector is on pins and needles following a new round of protests by hotel workers just a month away from the start of the big-earning winter tourist season. The industry is a major employer and one of the chief earners of foreign exchange for Jamaica. On Tuesday, about 100 workers at the Secrets Montego Bay and Breathless hotels walked off the job, citing long hours without overtime pay, delayed wages and what they called untenable treatment by management.
We get paid Thursday, Friday before pay come.
Friday 5:30.
Every week, yes. It go change.
Senior tourism officials, including Delano Seaveright and the opposition spokesperson on tourism, Senator Janice Allen, visited the sites. On Wednesday, Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. reported that all the workers were back on the job after a series of discussions.
I'm pleased to report that the management and staff were able to arrive at many solutions today. They were able to address some of the major communication issues, and more importantly, we have 100% resumption back to work, which is very, very good. Again, we continue to encourage the development of an internal mechanism for the staff to be able to ventilate these issues and for there to be consistent communication at a preliminary stage. And we continue to work with the parties so that they can develop the system to have amicable resolution and settlement at a very early stage.
And on Friday, dozens of workers at Iberia Star Hotel in St. James walked off the job, alleging poor working conditions. Mr. Seaveright, a senior advisor to the tourism minister, urged the workers to be safe.
Meeting on the inside with the general manager to sit now and go through the concerns that you have raised, because you guys have a democratic right to do what you're doing. And we respect that, because you guys as workers in the industry, you are the cornerstone of Jamaica's tourism product. And the product cannot work without the workers. It's as simple as that. So you have the assurance of us that we're taking this very seriously.
And the opposition spokesperson, Senator Allen, is urging calm and dialogue among stakeholders.
In light of recent worker disturbances within the tourism sector and the strike happening this morning at Iberia Star in Montego Bay, I am calling on the government for urgent intervention to restore stability to the country's most vital industry. I have said it before, and I will say it again, that I continue to support the workers who are demanding fair treatment and adequate compensation, because this emphasizes their contributions, which are the backbone of the industry. But at the same time, I acknowledge that there are challenges faced by investors who have been grappling with a series of disruptions all this year, including travel advisories, severe water shortages in the Grill, rising inflation, and the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. It has been an exceptionally trying year for Jamaica's tourism industry, and while the workers' grievances must be addressed, we cannot overlook the mounting pressures on our investors who are essential to maintaining the global reputation of Brand Jamaica. Minister Edmund Bartlett has failed to act decisively to prevent the escalation of these challenges. The government must shoulder responsibility for the current state of the industry. It is clear that if Minister Bartlett had been more attentive to the needs of both workers and investors and acted swiftly to mitigate these issues, the sector would not be in such turmoil as we approach the winter tourist season.
Last month, workers at Royalton The Grill Hotel in Westmoreland went on strike over low wages and meal rationing. A general manager was later suspended. The government has approved the disbursement of $22 million to each of the 63 constituencies to undertake the annual mitigation and cleanup program. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the move is in response to the effects of Tropical Storm Raphael and the heavy rains which affected at least 6 parishes and caused over $620 million in losses to the agriculture sector. Mr. Holness made the announcement in Parliament on Tuesday as he gave an update on the $45 billion Spark Road program, which he said will start in December. The Prime Minister acknowledged public frustrations about poor road conditions across the island.
Mr. Speaker, I have to repeat over and over again. It's not the Jamaica Labour Party government that create bad road in Jamaica. We have had bad roads for the last 40 or more years. The real cause of the problems that citizens are experiencing now is that Jamaica's infrastructure has aged without any systematic investment in the maintenance of the infrastructure. Roads that were built decades ago were not maintained. And the question must be asked, everyone who is protesting about roadways, why was this not done? It wasn't done because you did not elect governments that could create the proper economic management of the resources of the country, to give the budget to support routine and consistent maintenance of the road.
And opposition spokesman on Works, Michael Phillips, criticized the Holness administration for its approach to fixing roads through its 8 years in office.
For quite a number of days now, have been pointing fingers on others in the failure of the maintenance of the country's infrastructure, blaming others for what he has not done since his administration has been in power. Because if the Prime Minister does not remember, he keeps referring back to the 18 years, which ended 17 years ago. And of that 17 years, the JLP administration has been in power for 13 of those 17. And he keeps blaming the opposition, which for me is a failure of his own administration. Because, Mr. Speaker, We've been asking the Prime Minister about the drainage plan since 2019 that he announced that it has been completed. We have not seen anything done towards that drainage plan.
Some 60 main roads and approximately 600 priority roads across 63 constituencies are to be repaired under the Spark program. Jamaicans with unpaid student loans who migrate to the United States may face difficulties updating or renewing their immigration status due to a partnership between the Jamaican and the U.S. governments. Head of Loan Servicing at Jamaica's Students' Loan Bureau SLB, Cheryl Serju, says tracking borrowers who move abroad is challenging and often leads to unpaid loans. She says the U.S. government now checks with Jamaican authorities to confirm if individuals seeking to update their status have outstanding debts. Ms. Serju says the partnership has helped the SLB collect overdue payments, with many borrowers only starting repayment when faced with immigration issues. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, let's hear from this elderly couple who's encouraging Jamaicans to eat organically.
You have established a farm here around your house, Ket's Gourmet Farm. Tell me, when did you start it and what was the inspiration behind starting this farm?
Well, that's a difficult thing to answer because we never planned to be in farming. We've always been doing what we're doing for the purpose of our family. We have 4 kids of our own. Mm-hmm. And we have maybe grown another 4. And our intention was to keep the family healthy. So we planted things and grew things for the purpose of the health of the family.
How did you guys learn to do these things?
How did we learn to do it? I'm a spirit-led person. I'd never been to an agricultural institution, but I would like to think that God has helped us in our process to do what we're doing, and we're constantly on research and development. We're never happy, never contented that we know it.
I think he loves plants from he was growing up because when I met him, he used to have at his gates some little candles plant with 10 o'clock flowers growing in them, and people used to buy them.
Yeah.
From him.
Yeah.
Yes, so he loves plants and plants love him and they grow.
If you understand the kind of a problem we have with our food supply, you'll understand my passion. So the idea is to get to where more and more persons will understand that you can grow a little organic thing at home. And we're not talking about expanding our business per se, but expanding the knowledge to get the behavior to change in the society. That people will understand that the nicest vegetable you can eat is the one you grow yourself.